What's up, guys? Welcome to Powerline Podcast. My name is Ryan Lucas. I'm your host. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. I hope you get some value from these episodes. All right, this week's guest is Josh Langley. Josh is a really great friend of mine, but not only that, he is a fantastic lineman that hails out of Southern California. Josh was actually an OG. He was on the show and believed in Powerline Podcast and was on the show way back at episode 16. So again, if you want further in-depth look and listen into Josh Langley's life and where he comes from, go back to episode 16. You got to go deep for that one. So I hope you get there. It's good to bring those episodes up again and listen to them anyway. So go back and listen to that one if you want to, but let's jump into this week's episode with lineman Josh Langley. It's great to have you back. I'm so stoked we were able to connect, and yeah, I can't wait to do this in person one day, not just from a distance, but hey, it's better than nothing. Yeah. And I figured why not reach out to you because, you know, it's been a long time since the first one and you've been doing some interesting stuff lately. I want to talk to you about the Barehand program, about some of this stuff to do with Jocko's company and some of the leadership training you've been involved with and just some things like that, and just catch up with you, BS. So welcome to the show again, buddy.
Roger that, man. Hey, thanks for having me. I was trying to think, it's been what, almost 5 years? Was it 2019?
Yeah, 2019, buddy. It's crazy,
wow,
right?
Dude.
And you were in the first group too. Like I think your episode is like down in the teens or something, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. Like 16 or 19 or something like that. Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah. When this comes out, you'll be sitting somewhere in the high 30s, mid to high 30s, 130s. Sorry. 130s. Yeah.
Dang, dude. That's pretty
right?
good.
It's crazy.
You've had I was sitting back thinking about it too. You've had some pretty interesting guests and some heavy hitters, and then also, you know, just a broad spectrum too. Just not all about Powerline, but about life.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's pretty dope.
That's what I'm looking at too. Like making some connections now. It takes time to get the ball rolling on some of this stuff. And last year, the big ticket item for Powerline Podcast was this studio and getting this studio put together, and not just getting it put together, but getting everything rolling in the background and making sure all of these functions work properly. And we're super happy with it. Just to be able to put out a product that looks like this versus, you know, and have multi-camera angles going and, you know, you coming through my head, my earpiece, and now it all getting recorded properly. Like, it's a big deal to set it all up and then get that flow going. And then I live 2,000 miles from here too, right? So just even that in between, making sure that we get the scheduling down. But so for this year, what we're trying to iron out is getting that schedule down, and now bringing in some guests from other genres, you know, like not just the line industry, and then even from the line industry, some real heavy hitters in the industry and in the trades industry, you know, some presidents of presidents, and like, you know, some people that get privy to some things that regular old Joe Blow linemen like us don't really get to hear every day, which is exciting. Yeah. We'll have some heavy hitters on.
Yeah, man. I think we reached out. I talked to you, and I talked to him about it too. He's down. I know he lives in Canada. I'm not sure how the scheduling work, but I think Jim McDonald would be an awesome guy to have on.
Right. No, thanks for reminding me about that. You know what? I'm going to type that right in right now while we're talking. So while I'm doing that, talk about what's sitting behind you there. I have been wanting to get a Bronco for ages, and you've done some work to yours. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so what I've got behind me, this is not my pride and joy, but this is my toy. It's a 2021 Bronco Badlands 2-door manual transmission. And I've been doing a little bit of work to it. I got it wrapped and put an aftermarket roof rack on it. I put some diode dynamic lights, ditch lights, and fog lights on it, and then I've got some parts sitting on the floor that I've got to put on it. But I bought it because I told my wife when they started talking about the Broncos, I'm like, if that thing even looks half as dope as the renderings I've seen, I'm buying one, and it's just gonna be my toy. And so I think it was July 13th of 2020 when they opened the reservations, and I put mine in that day. Put $100 down, and 15 months later, I finally got my Bronco.
Dang, dude. Well, it showed up before Tesla Cybertruck.
This is true. And I've had it since October of 2021. Yeah, 2021. And I've got about 5,800 miles on it because I work so much, it just sits in the shop. And then I wanted to preserve the OEM paint, so I haven't taken it out anywhere until I got it wrapped. Well, then I got it wrapped and I got busy. And so now it's ready to go out and get muddy. So
heck yeah. Is that the plan for it?
Yeah.
You guys planning on camping and stuff with it, or what's the plans?
Yeah, for sure. I bought it originally, because like I said, it was cool, but I bought it to go hunting, small frame, very capable. It's probably got more stuff on it than I know what to do with because I'm not a rock crawler, but I will go, I'll do some floor buying and get into some pretty sticky spots, but you won't see me in Moab or on the Rubicon. It's just, that's out of my league, and I've never really done that stuff.
Sure.
So that's more, I think that's more in Isaac's wheelhouse.
Yeah. Do you ever hook up with Isaac?
I haven't talked to Isaac in a while. We were going back and forth for a little bit. Through Instagram, man, I got all kinds of friends, but how many of those people I've actually seen in a while is something else. But that's a cool, it's kind of cool to keep up that way, though. But no, I haven't talked to Isaac in a while.
Dope.
Have you?
Actually, just I think at Christmas time, I just reached out and said Merry Christmas, that sort of thing. He said the same back. But other than that, he's kind of been off grid, like according to social media goes anyway. He's kind of been off grid, just doing his own thing, living life. So I would love to get down and see him again.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed with him in Mina once. Was I like a little over a year ago now, I guess, maybe 2 years ago, when I came down for the outside. I think I came down for the outside apprenticeship conference when it was held in San Diego, and I stayed with him for a day. So he's got a sweet rig. Yeah. That thing's deadly.
I don't know if I'll ever get that point, but like I said, my goal is make this thing self-sufficient, so I can just kind of take off for 3, 4, 5 days, put a rooftop tent on it, going back and forth with whether I'm going to put a goose gear setup in the back with like a fridge and cook station and portable power, or if I'm just going to buy like a off-grid or expedition trailer to tow behind it, because it'll tow up to 3,500 pounds, and I don't need anything even close to that. But with the articulation on those things, I can take it just about anywhere. So it's gut it or buy a trailer, or maybe even do both. I only really have one rule for this, two rules: no cutting and no drilling. If they can't bolt on, it's not going on.
Yeah. No, that's sweet. That's good.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, like I said, I wanted to chat with you mainly about a couple of these other things that I mentioned already, but give a little bit of brief history for anyone. I got like lots of new people listening since the last time, obviously, that we talked on this. So give a little brief history of who you are.
So Josh Langley, journeyman lineman out of IBW Local 47. Currently I work for Southern California Edison, where I just went just over 19 years here at Edison.
Dude.
Been in the trades. Yeah. Right. I was just talking to a guy the other day whose dad was in the trade, and I go, "Hey man, how old was your dad when I hired on?" He goes, "Let's see, you're this age, I'm that age." My dad was about 45. I was like, "Damn, dude." I remember the day I walked in, your dad was one of the old guys, and now I'm his age, so I must be one of the old guys now. Dude,
it's facts.
But yeah, so I broke into the trade here in Bakersfield. Just I'll go high level because it's in the other podcast. But broke into the trade here in Bakersfield in July of 2000, out in the oil fields doing line work, non-union. Worked right up there for a little bit, so I went outside contracting as a groundman for 1245 for a little while, and then there were some contract disputes and no work, and I had a 5-month-old at the house and a wife I needed to feed, so I went back to the oil fields and spent another 2.5 years there. And then I caught on with Southern California Edison as a groundman and did my apprenticeship and got hired on in 2005, January 2005. Did 7 months as a groundman, then got my apprenticeship and topped out in 2008. Spent 3 or 4 years on the crew as a lineman, just doing a lot of sub-trans work and distro work with a little bit of bulk in there. And then in 2012, I took a patrol job, which is kind of like I was lineman on patrol. So transmission troubleman is what it's called in some areas. I did that to get closer to home and be with the kids more. And I was a lineman on patrol until September 2017 when I became the senior patrolman. And then in July of 2022, I took a foreman position, a working foreman position in a new department called HALO. It stands for Helicopter Assisted Line Operations, and that's here in transmission as well. So I've spent my entire career at Southern California Edison in the transmission department.
Amazing, bro. This HALO department, I know that's been a while in the works, right? This has been something that seems like you guys have been trying to like organize for a while. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so longlining came to Edison officially as a work practice approved and flying in 2009. And it was supposed to be as soon as that broke and we got that method down and got our feet wet in that, we were going to move right into the barehanding and all going to be specialized work. And it just kind of, the barehand part of it got backburnered for a little bit, and we were doing a lot of long lining for the first few years. And then in 2013, 2014, they revisited the barehand thing. And for whatever reason, I wasn't a part of it then, but for whatever reason, it just got backburnered again. And then around about 2019, 2020, the rumors about HALO coming back and starting an actual department to do both of those things, to predominantly do helicopter work and then barehanding, it started gaining traction again. And they put a manager in place, and then they brought a general supervisor in place, and then they posted foreman jobs. And like I said, we started staffing up in June of 2022 is when we started staffing the craft. We had a couple other positions came on in 21, I believe. Might be a little sooner than that. I just know when I got my job.
Yeah.
Right. So, and in that time, it's been slow. We want to do it right. It's been kind of slow getting it going. New department, you know what that entails, like SOPs, vehicles, tools, staffing, budget, right? You got to have a budget for it. But, yeah, so that's where I'm at now. I've got, right now we're in we did it as a crawl, walk, run format. We're going to start off slow, build up, get good, and then we'll pick up a little more, get proficient at that, and then pick up a little more and get to where it's just like not balls to the wall, but like, hey, we're doing pretty good. And so right now we're kind of in the tail end of the crawl phase, just getting into the walk phase, and we're doing that with staffing as well. I've got myself and 3 linemen on my crew, and we're responsible for the Northern Territories. And then I have a peer, another foreman, and he's got 3 linemen on his crew, and they're responsible for the Southern Territories. And we spend a lot of time right now just working together because we're so small.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of 4-man crew can do.
Yeah.
But
from your perspective, like from the line perspective, what has it taken to build, or how involved have you been building out a program like this? How much does leadership lean on you, and how much do you lead on? Like, what does it take to like build this program?
It takes quite a bit. Leadership does a good job of trying to take on the lion's share so we can focus on working. But there are times, there's a lot of meetings of tracking efficiencies, right? Like barehand, a simple, let's just say a damper change out hot. How long is it going to take to do it de-energized with grounding and everything else? How long would it take to do it with, say, a Bronco? Or how long would it take to do it rope access? Or how long would it take to do with a helicopter, long lining in and stuff like that? So we sit in some meetings to try to figure that out, because you want to be efficient, because we're using it as a grid reliability, but we're also using it as kind of like a cost saving mechanism, right?
Yeah.
As well as the safety thing. A lot of people we talk to is like barehanding, that's dangerous. You're working that many bolts energized, but it's like, it's energized. You can't foul up the grounding scheme. It's energized. So while you always have to think about induction, you're also increasing your mad distances and stuff. So it's like, well, the risk of uninduced voltage when it's already energized is almost eliminated, because it's energized, right? You're not gonna, not to say we're not infallible, not to say you can't miss a step, but your spidey senses are a little bit more up when you're talking about barehand work.
Oh, for sure.
as you know.
Yeah. No, so. I'm always curious about, like, because there's not a lot of like actual legit barehand programs in existence, right? Like, as you know, I imagine like building this out too, you're drawing upon knowledge from, anywhere that you can get it, that of people that have the experience doing it, right? And are willing to like share, tricks and tips and ways of formulating something like this, right? Like, it's not easy to build like, from our experience, it's not easy to build it, because a lot of the times they try to keep a lot of that kind of like internal programming kind of in-house, right? Because it is such a specialized job. It's tough to get information. So
no, for sure. Like, so I won't put the name of the company that trained us out there, just because I don't know if I can or not, but sure. Really good company. I'll use Jim McDonald's name, and Jim McDonald, he's kind of like the godfather of barehanding. Everybody in the trade that barehands knows Jim. Yeah. And he came out for our initial training. Well, he came out the first time in 2013 or 2014, but he came out for our initial training that we did last February and March. And Jim's wanting to enjoy his life, so he's got a understudy, Dennis, and so talk about tips and tricks. Dennis is always, hey, just give me a call. Hey, send me pictures. You got questions? Doesn't matter. Da da da. In fact, I was just on the phone with him the other day, asking him about a B-string jumper carry through on a 500 dead end, and I'm like looking at the window, middle phase, slack jumper with weights on it. And hey, Dennis, what do you think? Can it be done with it as long as we have the clearances? Give me a couple ideas. And he did. He goes, well, you could do it this way, or you could do it this way. I'm like, cool. Didn't think about that. And then the more I looked at it, I was like, yeah, we'll have to write a procedure for that, and talk about it. And one thing I try to do is, when we got something coming up that we haven't done before, I'll throw it on the board, or print out paperwork, whatever, and everybody that is barehand trained on, which is my entire crew, the other entire crew, and then we have a couple of guys that work on other standard transmission crews that are barehand trained as well. That way we have alternates and guys we can call if, say, a guy's on vacation and we got work, and like, hey guys, something we haven't done yet. What do you think? How would you approach it with the training you have? You see something I don't see? Because we had that happen. One of our younger linemen caught something that me and the other foreman didn't catch while we were thinking about, can we do this as an energized job? And we're looking at it, we're like, okay, look, you got to watch out for this, and you got to watch out for this. And we're like, yeah. And we thought we had a solid plan. And then one of the younger linemen who was barehand trained goes, well, what about your clearance right here? I was like, oh crap, I didn't even think about that. So we try to make it a habit now, like, 8 sets of eyes are better than 2 sets of eyes.
For sure. Yeah. I always really loved this part about barehand work, was that, like you said, spidey senses are up, but it's not just, it's bigger than that, because it's like a special, unique, like a special, very specialized unit or portion of the work that we do of line work is barehand work. And not a lot of people are actually trained to the extent someone like yourself or, you know, someone in Quanah's barehand program is trained to do this type of work. Right. I really like this aspect of like, of bringing linemen together to develop a procedure. Cause that's what it takes. It takes like more than just one person, you know, like you go into the rest of line work and it's just like, hey, foreman, here's your work for the day. You get out to the job site, and depending on who that foreman is, will depend on like how good of a tailboard meeting or tailgate meeting you have in the morning, right? How good the procedure is, right? But with us, it's like every time you get together and you develop a work procedure that is solid and everybody's checking it over. And if there's any, you know, variation, even if you get into the job, you know, if there's any variation to any of the steps, it's like stop work for a sec, make sure everyone's on the same page. It's a sign off, you know, like we've made this change. Does everyone understand why? Is everyone good with it? Okay, let's go. Let's go back to work. I just love that aspect. And I understand, and I've said this so many times on the pod too, is like, I understand why you can't necessarily do that every time in distribution, but you can add aspects of that to no matter what job you're doing. Just, you know, instead of just like doing something different when you're up in the bucket in distribution, even just like instead of doing something different without coming to the ground and talking to the ground crew about why you're doing that. Like, I'm not talking small things. I'm talking like major changes. Like you decide to do something completely different. Just let them try to figure it out as you're doing it. You're setting yourself up for failure somewhere down the line, right? I've just always loved that aspect of barehand work where you come together as a group. It almost seems way more team, you know, team environment. It's a team contribution.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, for sure. We, you know, so we have an enterprise, like you brought up the tailboard. We have an enterprise tailboard that are, you know, one of them's a little bit geared towards distribution. The other one, actually anymore, I think they're the same, but we used to have kind of like a transmission one and a distribution one. And pretty much it's all these boxes on the front, and we got rid of check boxes. That way you actually have to write in. We got rid of all the check boxes, make it, you know, like, hey, put some thought into it. And then the back was just either extra room or a spot to draw a picture if you need a diagram, and then like the hierarchy of controls and stuff, right? But like for HEC, anytime we're on an HEC job, we have a totally separate tailboard for that. We'll give the tailboard of the scope of the job, but then we have an HEC tailboard talking about checking your harnesses, buddy check, signals, I'm safe acronyms, all, you know, LZ coordinates, nearest hospital, all that good stuff, right? Then the pilots will give a tailboard as well, like what their expectation is, if there's anybody new around that hasn't been around the bird in a while, and go through the helicopter emergency protocols and stuff like that, right? Well, then we were talking to the guy that's our trainer for Barehand, and he came from National Grid back east, and he's like, oh yeah, we have a totally different, let me show you our tailboard. And dude, you want to talk about an in-depth tailboard? I mean, things that you don't take into consideration, like what's the relative humidity today? What's your elevation today? Load calcs. I mean, you're getting down into the nitty-gritty. You always want to know, but when you're using specialized tools for specialized operation, you definitely don't want to chintz or under-calculate or whatever. So it's always good to over-calculate a little bit, and then you know you're good. But like understanding weights and tensions and all that, that's all part of line work. But now you're relying on these fiberglass poles to hold this stuff up that's energized versus we'll ground it, and oh, it weighs this much, we'll throw a 6-ton hoist up there just to be safe. When we know a 3-ton will get it done, we'll use the 6 just to be safe, kind of over rig, right? Well, in the barehand world, you only want to use what you got to use. And one of the things for us, our book was written around ladders and trolleys and stuff like that, right? Well, one of the things that we learned how many barehand ladders and stuff like that we don't need, because we actually are utilizing rope access. We're accessing the bundles via rope, or we're using rope to lower down the sling or the strings and whatnot. And some things you can't get away from the stick. Like if you're changing out dead ends, you still got to build the boom, you still got to build the cradle and all that stuff. But instead of building the trolley and doing everything on the bridge, you just build a rope system, lower it down, and let the guys on the ground do the work and bring it back up. More efficient, less work, less setup. And the other thing I'm learning in the barehand world is there's a lot that goes into the planning and a lot that goes into the setup, but the time it takes to do the work is next to nothing, man. It's just so efficient and so smooth. And at the end of the day, unless it's super hot and you've been wearing your Faraday suit all day, you don't feel as wore out as you do doing it the traditional way.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I love that part about it. I love the learning. I really would encourage anybody in the transmission world to seek out somewhere that they can do. Obviously I'd promote this place as the place to come, but like anywhere that you can get in with a solid, reputable program. Don't get in and start doing this stuff when it's not a solid program. That's what's a little difficult to determine as well, because there's a lot of programs out there that are not solid for sure. Just like anything though. But what I was getting at is Barehand Work's exciting. Barehand Work's it's so fun. It is so fun. I love all the thinking, like all of that figuring out too, your weights and forces, especially when you bring aviation into the picture too. And it's like you said, they got their whole system of checks and balances. And it's these two worlds of line work and trades and aviation mixing together. And it's like super interesting when it all clicks and jives. And it's like so good. You get a good pilot and a good machine and a good line crew, and you can knock work out, and it's so fun. So fun.
Oh yeah, no, definitely poetry in motion, man. It's just like, and you hit it. It's so you mentioned a little bit of the Jocko thing, so I'm going to go on.
Yeah,
just
please
incorporate some of that a little bit. It is the relationships, right? It's breaking down the silos and the relationships there, building these relationships with each independent organization as well. Like we have an air ops department. Like Edison's one of the few utilities that we have our own in-house. We have a hangar and 5 acres and 6 aircraft and our own pilots. And we do use contract helicopters for certain things, but like when it comes to long lining, we are only allowed to fly under our birds, under our qualified pilots. So that relationship right there, and they service the whole company. They're doing anything from line patrolling to slinging loads to distribution work to flying our CEO around and whatnot, and hydrographers to check snowpacks and stuff. So you have a good mix of pilots and building the relationships there. And not that we can know exactly what it is to be a pilot unless we get a pilot, just like they can't know exactly what it is to be a lineman unless they've been a lineman. And there are a few flying linemen out there. I ran into a few, and but wanting to know, like, hey man, I'm going to be up here. What do you expect from me? Because I want to make sure that I'm giving you the right signals, or I'm doing the right rigging that you want, or I'm going to bring your line down where I think it should be, but are you good with this so I can hook this load up or whatever, right? And then vice versa. I've got pilots like, okay, show me exactly, before I get in that helicopter and I start slinging this load, show me what you want, show me what you need, tell me what you're doing. I was working with my old crew actually a couple weeks ago doing restoration for Storm. And we had a pilot, contract pilot, flying a Black Hawk, landing 25 and 35 foot steel arms for an H-frame. And this dude was freaking landing those arms and flying that Black Hawk like he was an AMD 500, man, just threading the needle, very smooth, just easy peasy, right? And he talked to the guys on the radio. He's obviously been doing this a while, but just that relationship and the trust. And I had worked with that pilot a few other times, but I don't know, I don't think the crew had, maybe one other time. Like I could be wrong, I didn't talk to anybody, but like, this guy had a reputation of being a solid pilot, being a fluid pilot, being a power line pilot, so he cared. He wanted to know what the guys down there needed. And once they had that conversation, he's like, oh yeah, no problem, bro. Watch, hold my beer, watch what I can do for you. And just at the end of it, the guys were like dude, that pilot was so good, and da 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 da, and yeah, dude, he's been doing it a while.
Yeah.
You know, he understands what we're doing.
Talking
So
about,
there's that relationship thing.
I love that. Talking a little bit more about Jocko and what you guys got going on with that, because I know, like, following you and knowing you as a person, I know you've been super into leadership development, personal development, skill development, all that kind of stuff. Just knowing you, like, that's very much a passion of yours, it seems like. It seems like whether that's come from you or come from other people in the organization, but it seems like your company's taking a hold of that now too. It sent you to things like Jocko's muster. Aren't you getting involved with, like, his entire leadership program? Or talk a little bit about that and what you found, like, to be successful so far, and yeah, just share a little bit about how that's helping you guys personally and, like, from the organization standpoint.
Yeah, so I got his book, you know, right after it came out. It was actually gifted to me in a roundabout way by one of my mentors. He gave it to somebody who then turned around and bought them and handed them out. And I happened to be, you know, it was my manager at the time that gave me mine, and he got it from his manager. So, read the book, was like, wow, this is cool. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a military fanboy. We talked about it on the last podcast. Like, I was headed in the military until I made some poor choices, and then by the time I got squared away, I had kids and had already found the trade. So I was like, okay, maybe that's not what my life is supposed to be. And so I read the book, and, you know, I try, and I fail. I'm not perfect. I try to implement that in my leadership at work, in my leadership at the house, my daily life, or whatever. And so then I started listening to podcasts and whatnot. And I want to say it was early last year, our senior vice president, she runs a book club, and they decided to read Extreme Ownership in the book club, and it just grabbed a hold of her. And so they had heard about the muster, and right, if we can send some people to it, I'd like to send some people to it if it's not too late. So they found out that they could get X amount of tickets, and they wanted a diverse group to go. So I went with, I was the sole transmission representative. There was somebody there, like, from HR. There was somebody there from safety, somebody from distribution, like, I think Chris is a FS, and then there was also a troubleman from distribution. So it was a pretty good mix of people that went from across the departments, not just in the field, and people that are, you know, not in the field, non-craft workers. And so we went to Orlando and attended the muster, and it was pretty cool. I mean, the way I try to explain it to everybody is you can read the book, but now you have not only the authors, but you have their entire staff: Good Deal Dave, Jason Gardner, JP Donnell, Cody Gandy, Carlos, you know, everybody. And they each get a snippet, and they're really like getting in the weeds now, like explaining stuff to you, and they're interactive. When you have a break, they're walking around, they're talking to you, and it's not like just like, hey, it's nice to meet you. Like, hey man, what do you struggle with, or what are you successful at, or what are you getting out of it? So what have you gotten out of it so far today? So just like that interaction too was really cool. And so we got back from that, and with the purpose of trying to bring Echelon Front on to the company in some sort of capacity. And so we had a few meetings about it, and we're trying to decide who everybody got to vote on who their favorite speaker at the conference was. Okay, if we're going to bring a speaker in, who are we going to bring in? And unanimously, everybody said it's got to be Jocko. Not just because of who he is, but it's his thing. Jocko or Leif, one of the two of them has to come in and give the kickoff speech. Otherwise, we don't feel it's going to hold as much weight and be as impactful. And so that was April of last year. Had a meeting in May, meeting in June, and then kind of didn't hear anything about it. So we thought maybe it was kind of dead in the water. And then an email comes out like a week before, hey, we're proud to announce that we're bringing Echelon Front, and there's going to be some immersion classes, but Jocko's coming himself at this place on this date, and he's giving the keynote speech. If you want to attend, register. So register. And,
sign me up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. Well, also, the core group of us, that when we knew it's in some capacity, we were going to have to help facilitate this as well as benefit from it. So signed up, went there, and got to see him speak in person. And then I have attended one of the immersion classes with Good Deal Dave and another Cordell Benningston, another instructor who was also a pilot. And it was really good, man. And like the way I kind of sold it, when they asked me, what do you think? I go, hey, these guys aren't telling us anything we haven't heard before. They're presenting it in a way, though, that's more impactful with real life stories. We went through another safety program that was made by this group, and I won't get into what it was. And there was benefit in it. I personally believe you will find benefit in anything if you look for it. So, not that one was better than the other. It just, presentation's everything, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, so yeah, it was pretty impactful, and everybody, like, I was reading the company Yammer or whatever it was, and because my biggest worry coming back from the muster, was that was too militaristic. That was, there's too much machine gun fire in some of the videos. There was too much talk about combat, and I mean that's what they do. But in this day and age, that doesn't sit well with everybody.
Sure.
You gotta think about how you're gonna reach the masses. But when Jocko came and gave his presentation, I was 100% surprised that they did not ask him at all. Based on his presentation, they did not ask him to water it down.
Yeah.
It was the same presentation I got at the muster, kind of condensed, obviously, because he was only there for a certain amount of time. And but it resonated really well, and I could tell by some of the questions that were asked afterwards. And then when I went to my class, seeing the people that were there, and it was crazy because I look, you walk in this classroom and you look around, you're like, okay, he's not wearing work boots, he's not wearing FR, doesn't work outside. You tell by how everybody's dressed, right? And it's like, okay, this is going to be fun. Not going to be much interaction. Boy, was I wrong. That judging the book by its cover, I was wrong. There was a lot of interaction, and at the end of it, everybody was stoked to be there and had a lot of good things to say. And everybody's actually asking for more. Like, hey, can we expand on this program? Can we get them to keep coming back? Can we continue working with them? Obviously, that's out of our hands. That's all budget and higher up decisions. But I was glad to see that it resonated with a vast majority of the people.
I like that there's some diversity in there too. Like, because in line work, you obviously work with many different departments and many different skill sets, right? Right from like yes. The one that comes to mind is lineman to engineer, right? or lineman to office, or lineman to project management, like whatever that combo is for us as linemen to whatever, learning these skills, both sides, both people, both, whatever, learning these different leadership skills and how to interact with each other, learning a little bit more about how to work with each other is never going to be a bad thing. Like it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. No, and it's like the 4 rules of combat. It's simple. I mean, you change the name. We'll just take cover and move, for instance, right? Number 1. All that is teamwork. You don't like cover and move because it sounds too tactical. Okay, teamwork.
Yeah.
Teamwork is teamwork, whether you're on a battlefield, a soccer field, or in a boardroom, right?
Exactly.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Prioritizing and executing. Hey, what's most important now and what can I do now and what, like, how can you be wrong there? Taking a step back and seeing the bigger picture, all the detaching, decentralized command, giving people ownership. Like it comes from experience in the global war on terror, but it's invaluable knowledge that can be used across any career or across anything, right? You can use it anywhere.
And that's their message, right? That's their message is, exactly. Hey, like these are really simple. Because they have to be simple, because you're here, they're slinging bullets by your head. So it's got to be simple. And hey, It's tried and true with human life. Like we've battle tested this. Like go test it with their soccer moms, because we've tried and true this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got to say, probably one of the biggest things, I've taken a lot out of it, but one of the things that always resonates with me is two things leading up and down the chain of command. You know, you got, in both instances, you need to be respectful, but also like probably the biggest thing that hits me that I try to live by and I try to communicate to my peers and also when I lead up the chain of command is the why, man. You know as well as I do. If you don't tell somebody the why, they're going to make up their own why, and it could be right or it could be 180 degrees out and be so far off base. And then, you know, but be honest, right? Giving people the why is the honest, right? It's like, hey, dude, this is going to suck, but I'm going to be right there with you. Or, you know, this is why we're doing it. It may not make sense to you, but just let it flesh out a little bit. We're doing it because it's what has to be done. Or, hey, it's going to suck right now. We're going to slog through it. But when we get to the other side, you're going to see it's actually a benefit for us. But just be honest with guys. Tell them the why. Tell them why they have to do something. Why this SOP is the way it is, or why they're putting a cut on overtime for the next 3 months or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are just going to make it up. Oh, they're cutting overtime because they've got to pay for the CEO to fly to Dubai to attend the Green Conference or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're so true. It's so true. Like that's how you build trust. It's one of the first stages of building trust too, right? Is if you don't give a proper why and a real truthful answer for that why, then like you said, people can make up their own why, and it's never going to be beneficial. Most never going to be beneficial because they'll never know. They'll make up whatever.
Yeah. And I get it. There are some times and I've expressed this like, hey, if you can't tell me because you were told you can't tell me, understood, because there's things above my pay grade that I don't need to know.
Sure.
But I try, at least with my guys that are on my crew, I try to be as open and honest with them as possible, good or bad or indifferent. Like, hey man, this is what it is. So
that's one of the things that drives us linemen crazy anyway, is the top secret power line, mentality. Like, why can't you tell me this? Like, bro, you're just a foreman. Like, why can't you tell me what's going on? It's not like you know something super, super special here. Like, give me the straight truth on why we're out here right now. I don't get it. Like, let me know, or else I don't feel like being here. See ya. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's empowering too. I mean, I also try to be as transparent. Like, if we're going to go do a job, I give my guys as much information as I possibly can, because they can start wrapping their head around it. When we show up, everybody's got an idea of what's going to, they have the information, so everybody can start, group thinking and what's the best plan of attack. The other reason is okay, we're going to start this job tomorrow and I get sick. I got to call in, or I get called off to go do something else. Next man up mentality. I know my crew's going to run without me because I've given them as much information and the why and the, I'll leave the how up to them as long as it's safe and it makes sense and it's efficient. But I've given them the why. I've given them the what needs to be done. I've set the commander's intent. Get after it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and even another step further is like we're talking about with like getting together as a barehand group and discussing job procedures and like, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Or what about this? What about your clearances here? Like, if you don't give them the straight truth on what you're up to and why you're out there and why you're doing what you're doing, they're not going to put the same amount of effort into thinking about the project and wanting to get the project done safely, productively, all the above, right? It's a good point.
Roger that.
Love that. What have you learned about like fostering like growth mindset and some advice on that sort of thing? I've been talking to, I'll preface this a little bit, been talking to a lot of like youthful, like they're kids really, just got back from a Quanta Sports high school rodeo, people from the ranch rodeo community, and just got back from talking to a few of these people. And it's tough as a kid to figure out what you want to do in life and to think even past tomorrow, and kind of foster that growth mindset. You got any advice on that?
I do. Kind of first, like, high schoolers, right? Like, so I listened to another podcast, another SEAL, Andy Stump, Cleared Hot podcast, and I used to be the parent asking my kids, like, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? What are your plans? What are this? What are that? And then I think about it, and neither one of my children are doing what they said they wanted to do coming up throughout high school, right? Neither one of them are. And I remember one thing that stuck to me. Andy Stump said he thinks it's absolutely asinine to ask a high schooler, what do you want to do with your life? Now, he said in his case, he knew from the time he was 11 years old, same with Jocko, like, I just want to be commando. I'm going in the Navy SEALs. Some people have that figured out. Some people know right away. Cool. But I'm having this conversation with my son right now. He's 21 and he's working for Chevron Corporate here in town. And he's working a desk job doing some well data analysis, and he's doing really well. And he some days when he has a bad day, he's like, man, I don't know. This isn't what it looked like. This isn't what I thought I wanted to do. I said, bud, I go, you're 21 years old. The only thing you're worried about right now is paying rent, gas money, and beer in the fridge, man. Is this job giving you that? Well, yeah. I go, cool. You're 21. Yeah. I go, it is what it is, right? You're making good money. You're doing a good job. You've been promoted. You've gotten raises. So that speaks to what you're doing. You don't have to have it figured out right now, man. And another thing that really stuck with me is, so you know Jocko's partner, Pete Roberts with Origin, right? He said his mentor, I can't remember the gentleman's name, his mentor said you have decades, right? Decades of opportunity. And in your life, you have about 4 of them, because your teens don't count. Your 20s, you're being stupid trying to figure out life. So you have your 30s, 40s, 50s, possibly your 60s if you don't get it right. Then the last part of your life is just kind of doing what you, enjoying the spoils of your labor, the fruits of your labor, right? So I told my son, I go, you're not even in your first decade of opportunity right now. Right? You still have your 4 decades of opportunity. So just gain as much experience as you can right now. You'll figure it out. I said, when I was your age, I didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. Wow. I don't even think I'd found the trade at 21. Let's see, July 2000, I was 22. And then I didn't even really think of it as a career until I got my big boy job at Southern California Edison, right? Like, hey, I got a 401k. I've got a pension. I got insurance. Like, this is a real job now, you know? Even though I'd been I had 2 kids, I had a mortgage and all that stuff. I didn't feel like I had a big boy job until I started with this huge company. And so I tell them not to be too hard on themselves. So fostering growth, but back to fostering your growth, your group think and fostering some growth is you also have to give people the freedom and the comfort to pitch in, right? Like ideas, you throw ideas, right? Nobody's going to grow if every time they open their mouth, you tell them, oh, shut up, kid, you're stupid. What do you know? You don't got enough whiskers yet. Yeah. Or whatever, right? I'm definitely not that everybody gets a freaking trophy mentality, but let them flesh it out. Let them think about it. Jocko talks about that. If your plan's 70% right, it's not a bad plan, but I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Well, did you take this into consideration? Did you take that into consideration? Oh, no, I didn't. But, okay, now that you mentioned it, okay, that plan becomes an 80% plan. We can work an 80% plan to success.
I love that. So, I love that. That's a great way to look at it. Rather than just slamming it right off the front, like, no, that plan sucks. Like you said, maybe it is 70% there and just needs to be asked a couple more questions. Maybe they just need to think a little bit more about what they're talking about and their plan. I like that. That's cool.
Well, that's where like you and I, right, our experience, man. Like I said, that young lineman that caught that thing I missed. You got me, who's got at that time had 23 years of experience. The other foreman, 30-something years of experience, and then this young lineman. I mean, he's 28 at the time, so. And he did some college, so maybe 8 years total in the trade at that time, 7 years. He caught something, and it's not like it was this big thing, but the fact that he caught it, it's those young eyes, man. It's that fresher out of the books and fresh out of the apprenticeship. More recent, it's like I got out of the apprenticeship in 2008. That was, however many years ago. I can't even, 16 years ago now.
Yeah, dude.
So. And it's also, you take things for granted, not just knowledge. We're like, oh yeah, you're just looking at different things. And then you also have other things going on. So having if you don't empower people to think on their own and to give them a voice, they're not going to speak up because they're going to feel like, well, I just get shut down every time, or you're not going to listen to me anyway, or they're not even got the security, they're not confident enough. Then that time you might have needed them to speak up might have been the time that you saved a job, or you saved a life, or you saved an injury. And what I try to tell guys, especially guys that are new to something, is that question you have, you may not be the only person to have it that's standing here in this group of 25 people, but you may be the only one to speak it. So if 5 other people had that question, you answered it for them, right? By you being the one to ask it. But if nobody asks the question, nobody gets their answer, and people walk away not knowing what they needed to know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's dope. The other thing with this, like the whole, I won't call them kids, but the 20 to 30 year old range, I just think that they need, and I'm curious your opinion on it, I just think they need patience too. Like, it seems like they see everybody on social, all their friends living this great life, or making tons of money, or like influencers making bags, and they think they got to be somewhere like that, making that sort of thing from 20 to 30. And I'm just like, man, just have some patience. Like, you're 22, 10 years ago, you were 12. like chill for a little while, just get some experience, build a network, like do really good for a couple of leaders that you work for, and let them promote you, let them figure out a place for you to like think about next. I don't know. What's your take on, like, if you're in that 20 to 30 range, what's your advice for those people to, like, patience? Like, what should they be thinking? Where should they be going? That sort of thing.
Well, where are you right now? What are your circumstances, right? Are you in a good spot? Work hard, get in a better spot. Are you not in a good spot? Work hard. There is, Simon Sinek said it best a few years ago about, it's our fault actually why those people are that way, right? Like, he was doing the speech about millennials, how, I haven't changed. I've been at my job for 8 weeks and I'm not the VP and I haven't changed the world. I think I need to do something else. Well, that's the pressure that was put on him. It's like me. I told my kid, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. I didn't go to college at all. And I'm, as well as I do, the money in line work, right? Well, if we're telling everybody to go to college, what happens to the jobs that don't require college? If everybody's got college degrees in marketing and finance and engineering, where'd all the skilled labor go, man? Yeah. It's not there anymore. And so it's just bide your time, work hard, keep your head down, and be patient. Patience is one of those things. It's funny. If you ask for it, you're going to get tested, right? Yeah. Like, it was, when I was younger and spent a lot of time in church, it's like, be careful what you pray for, because if you pray to God for patience, He's going to throw every test at you to see if you've got it or not, right? But things will come in due time. Now, with that being said, you don't just sit back and wait for it. You've got to be proactive. Go get what you want. Go take it. And I do see, I run into all kinds of people, not just in line work, but I work with contract crews. I've worked with different transmission crews here in Edison. I know people in other companies, and it is a wide variety of people that it's like, well, I got hired, so I should get what's coming to me. It's like, well, no, you still got to work for it. Either, you think your dad's name's gonna carry you through your career, bro. If you can't cut it, you can't cut it. So if you want something, go get it. And like, we talked about the leadership thing and stuff. Like, I've always tried to tell people that, especially when you're an apprentice, but it holds true when you're a lineman, that your training isn't just on the clock, man. If there's something you don't figure out, like, I sit in my hotel room, I look at my Barehand manual, I'll get bored, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to watch TV. I talked to the wife already. I'll open up something to educate myself. And it may not be line work. It may be leadership. It may be emotional growth. It may be just because I'm curious about something, But, and the other thing about, you bring up social, is that's just the wave tops, man. There's very few people that put the valleys on social media.
Yeah.
Everybody's just putting the mountaintops. Nobody's putting the valleys. They're not putting how many times they fell down. And I'm speaking vaguely. I'm painting with a broom, but 90% it's you're seeing everybody's best thing, or everybody's celebrating something, or whatever. You're not seeing the bad days. I'm not posting on social media the day I'm feeling insecure about I freaking have been gone away from my kid while they were growing up. I'm not posting on social media about, the fact that I was an asshole to my wife last night and I feel like crap about it or whatever, right? I have that happen to me more, frequently. But you don't see that on my social media. You see, look my Bronco looks cool. I got it wrapped, or check out this new knife I got, or look at this bitchin' job I was just on, And I am trying. That's something. That's another thing I think is big and I'm having an easier time of doing it now. Is line work is what I do. It's not who I am.
Yeah, love that.
And I mean, I know my
it's
social
a part
media
of your
kind of
life,
reflects that
right?
a little bit.
Like
it's a huge part of my life.
It's a part of your life, but like your life's, you got other hobbies, you got and it's important to have these other things, and it's important for other people out there to see these other things that you're doing, and that these other hobbies that you're interested in, and these other things that you're interested in, not just line work. Like, not just what you do for a living, whether it's line work or not, whatever it is you do for a living. It's important for people to see what else that interests you as a human.
Yeah, no,
it's important to share that too.
And yeah, and yes, clearly, line work gives me the ability to do some of the stuff I do, and have the hobbies I have. Which, whatever you do for a living, that's what it should do. But I think, I won't speak for anybody else. I know for me, for a big part of my career, that's what identified me. My closet was full of nothing but lineman t-shirts, nothing but lineman hats. That's all I was into and whatnot. And it's still a big part of my life, and I'm proud of it. And it always will be, like once a lineman, always a lineman. But I'm starting now at 46 to realize that there's more to life out there. I'm even trying not to work as much, and enjoy my time off. And the company gives me vacation, I should probably take it.
Yeah. True story. Yeah. Cause this kind of goes back to like the 20s to 30s thing. Is I've been telling this age group a lot that this is probably the moment in your life where you can take some chances. You already don't have a big bag full of money. You don't have a family, or maybe you're just starting it, whatever. Maybe you don't have kids yet. You don't have like a ton of responsibilities. So I've been saying, put yourself in difficult situations, like go up against some adversity, but like purposeful adversity, like put yourself in those circumstances, put yourself in uncomfortable growth building situations. You know what I mean? Put yourself in an adverse situation, because what that's going to do is build resilience, to teach you something, help you to grow, and you'll come out of that 20s to 30s with some confidence and some strength and, some life experience and some resilience and all these like positive things. And that's your time to do it, because like, right now, 46, go try some hard things right now, Josh. It's difficult, right? Like you can't just like drop your family and drop the life you've built already in the last 20 years to go take a chance on something. It's hard to do. Not that you can't do it, but it's even a step or two harder than if you're 22, and you want to quit that job to go try something different, or you want to, Yeah. Anyway, I've been telling them to do hard things.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like even in the trade, that you can stick that to the trade. Like I've heard you reference in a couple other podcasts, is that dial, right? You turn the dial up for a little bit, you go chase the storms, you go do the cool stuff, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna turn the dial down a little bit so I can recharge, be around a little more. Maybe I want to take a call to a distro area that's maybe only putting in 10, 12 hours of overtime a week, versus other places that, they're working, 16 and 8 straight through 7 days a week, 7/16s out of the hall or whatever. And so yeah, I think if it's easy, so I had this conversation with my daughter, nothing easy is really worth it in the end, right? Because what's the growth in ease?
Yeah.
There's not much. Now, if stuff comes easy to you, okay, you're talented, you're gifted or whatever, but you look at those people that are just absolutely gifted, they're challenging themselves to be better every day. I mean, you look at Cam Haynes, right? We'll get out of the military theme for a little bit. Cam Haynes, the dude's a freaking machine.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a day off. Why does he do it? Because it makes him better at what he wants to do. The dude's already probably the greatest freaking bow hunter in the country, but in his eyes, he can always be better. So he's running Mount Pisgah with a rock. He's running a marathon every day. He's running ultras a few times a year. He's, jacking steel every morning.
Yeah.
He would run on his lunch break when he was, employed. So it's like, and this guy he's probably the apex hunter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not in his eyes.
Yep.
He's gonna put himself in adversity. And so
there's always
I do like that.
I
Yeah,
agree with that.
They're always so
dope, dude. Talk about your daughter for a second, if you feel like it. I keep thinking when you're talking about Jocko, that video that you shot me, like how special that was. I'm not sure what she thought about that, but that must have been kind of cool. But just how does it feel having your daughter make that decision? And then do you have any advice for somebody that's got a kid that's making that decision? Because not everybody gets to experience that. How do you go through that and process that yourself?
So this was, in my true daughter's fashion, completely unexpected and wild. So my daughter was going to college out of high school. And then a couple weeks before, she's like, I'm going to enlist in the Army. I was like, what? You've never talked about that before in your life. What the hell? And so, yeah, I'm going to do it. And at first, it was probably a rebellion thing. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, well, do your research. And she didn't do her research. She went down the recruiter, took the ASVAB, and she was going infantry. I was like, Ava, really? Infantry in the Army? Do you even know? No. I go, okay. You might want to rethink that one. I'm not saying you can't do it, but if you don't know what it is, at least do some research. So they gave her a ship date that was at the end of summer, actually in the fall, and she spent the summer home with her friends and got FOMO and all that kind of stuff. And she realized that she's like, I don't want to go in the military. So she went and talked to a recruiter, and they were able to let her out of it. No harm, no foul, whatever. And then a couple months goes by, some life choices were made, and reality set in, and she went and re-enlisted, and this time she left. A little bit better MOS. She went from just straight infantry to cavalry scout, but still a combat arms position. And so I will say that, obviously some pride, with her making the decision to serve the greater good, serve her country, but also a lot of trepidation and fear is not the right word, but a little bit of worry. My baby girl, she's 18 years old, never been away from home, never been across the country without her parents, never been away from her parents for more than maybe 2 weeks, and she's going to Fort Benning, Georgia for 6 months and then shipping out to wherever her duty station is going to be. And she's in a combat arms position, and America may not be at war, but we're in conflicts in at least 88 to 90 different countries across the world right now in one way or another. And then current day, that Ukraine was already going on, but now you look at the stuff going on in Gaza and Israel and stuff going on, with Palestine and all that stuff. So, but I was worried, her mom was worried, some sleepless nights, not getting to talk to her for weeks at a time because, which I personally think is a good thing. That is one thing that I absolutely love is they're forced to unplug.
Yeah.
Not just as a building a one unit, one team mentality, but it's like, you don't got time for that here. We're going to smoke you. You're going to drill. You're going to PT. You're going to chow. You're going to go to sleep. You're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to do the same thing again. And my daughter is somebody who her social life is very important to her, and social media is very important to her. So I think it's a good reset for her to be there. I'm proud for sure. I'm proud. And I still, I'll come home from being out of town, and I always joke, it's like the first person you greet at my house is my dog, because he'll have it no other way, and he's 120 pounds, and what he says goes for a minute, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll walk in the garage door, and Santino's right there, like, hey, Dad. I give him his love until he decides he's done. Then it's go see the wife, and it used to be walk down the hallway and go into my daughter's room and see how she was doing, and she hasn't been there. Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie, there's some days I sit there and I'm like, I was ready for her to move out, but goddamn, I miss that kid, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
And you talk. So, but she'll get through it. She's had some trials and tribulations over there with some minor setbacks, injury stuff, and little stuff like that, little mundane stuff. But, you know, when they compress so much training, if you miss a day, you might have missed something critical. So she is on track, unless she did have a minor setback with an injury to her foot. So unless they decide to derail her for that, she's on track to graduate boot camp next Friday. And then she starts her one station unit training, and she has to stay in the same area. She doesn't go away. And then if that goes as planned, she will graduate OSIT in May, and that's when she'll get her duty station. And she's like, man, there's an Army base in Fort Irwin, there's Fort Irwin in California, which you're not from here, but it's out in Barstow, and no offense to anybody in Barstow, but Barstow ain't the happening place.
Sure.
Right? I go, Ava, you don't want to go to Barstow, man. Come on, you can go to Hawaii, you can go to Texas, you can go to Germany, you can go to Alaska, pick somewhere you haven't been. Don't come here.
Yeah.
You know, and her thinking, again, social minded, she goes, well, when I'm off, I'm only a couple hours away. I can come home and see my friends. I go, hey, your friends, God love them, but we talked to her yesterday, the day before. I go, you're not missing anything. Your friends are still doing what your friends did before you left.
Yeah,
they're working and they're having bonfires on the weekend. You know.
Yeah. How many times have I seen my friends? Hey.
Yeah, right.
Twice.
It's just like, it's one of those things. Yeah.
Welcome to adulthood.
I
you know?
I talked to my wife. Yeah. Right. I talked to my wife about that. I'm like, you know, you were talking about the Mag 6 earlier. I'm like, we have all met each other in one way or another, but not everybody has met everybody.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, I've met you a couple of times. I know you hooked up with, I think you've met everybody. Chase by default, but I think you have met everybody.
Jude, Olin. Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, Cyril
like,
too. Yeah.
Through 6 degrees of separation, we all know each other. But it's funny because I think we talk every day, multiple times a day through our chat, and once in a while we'll call each other, and I think that's the positives of this trade, and now social media, man. It's like I chop it up with people. Like, I don't know if it was before or after our last podcast, but I'm out patrolling my line, and I get a text from Ben Holmes. He goes, hey, man, I'm passing through Bakersfield. Where are you? I'm like, oh, I'm over here. Where are you? He goes, I'm right here. I'll go, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Like, I met him on the side of Interstate 5 as he was traveling, right?
Yep.
Just dapped each other up. Hey, how's it going, bro? Nice to finally meet you. I met another guy, Jesse Schoonover. He posted a pic on social, and I was on my lunch break, and I saw it, and I looked over my shoulder. He was on a contract here reconducting a distribution line 2 spans up from the 220 tower I was working on. So I was like, hey, dude, look to the south. That's me. And it's like, oh, shit. So we kind of met up there, and
that's wild.
Another guy, Kevin Pilkington, right? Goes by Blackskin Lineman. We started chopping it up, and then I saw it last night. I'm like, dude, when I broke into the trade, I was on a crew with his old man.
No way.
And now me and Big Kevin's kid are homies, and my kids call him Uncle Kevin and stuff like that. It's
so
just
cool.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the positives of the trade and
100%.
Social, you know.
Yeah, I love the fact that I have people that I could call upon in any state, in quite a few countries. You know, good buddies. Ever need a coach? Ever need anything? It's just like, shirt off your back. That's great. What do you need? Where you at? Yeah, it's great. It's super cool. Cool, buddy. Well,
yeah,
Josh,
man, it's wild.
Had you for an hour, a little over an hour now. Appreciate the heck talking to you.
Hey, man, always good catching up with you, brother, and I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun and definitely been too long.
Next time, it's here, in person, in the studio.
Roger that, dude.
The 6 of us.
Let's see. You guys are in Houston, right?
Yep.
All right. I think my sister lives down there. I'm not sure. I got a sister and brother in Texas, but a couple of them have moved, and I'm not sure which one went to Austin and which one went to Houston. That's how good I am at communicating.
That's awesome.
No, definitely. We'll have to do it.
Cool, buddy. Well, I appreciate the heck out of you. Thanks for making it work.
Hey, man. Thanks, brother. Same.
Peace.
Look forward to next time. Be safe.
All right, guys. Once again, hope you got some value out of the episode. I know I did. I enjoy every single one of these conversations, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. One more time for the folks in the back, if you could like, subscribe, follow, make sure you're following either in audio form and video form on YouTube. Much appreciated. All right, guys, play safe. Peace.